uncertainty is a problem, but very certain over-regulations are a problem as well. So I hear you and I empathize with you, and I'll tell you, when I'm out a lot doing town halls or talking to folks out there, there's a real big against small feeling in this country. Big businesses, big banks seem to be doing just fine. Small businesses, community banks are struggling. When it comes to this issue in particular, high fuel prices, big businesses can take advantage of sophisticated financial tools to try to leverage or hedge against rising fuel prices. I don't think our small businesses have the same ability. So big businesses have tools that they can use to try to combat these. What do you all do? If you can't use fancy derivatives and hedge against rising fuel prices, what strategies do you use to try to combat high fuel prices? And that's for all of you. Anybody got a short, quick, interesting answer?
Yeah, I'd like to answer that, Joe. It really is, as I testified, a catch-22 because, for an example, for us to hedge on surcharges, we'll go buy more raw materials. For example, trucking. You know, we'll get a truckload of steel versus a half a truck, which I have to go borrow money to do that.
Yeah.
And the lending in this country for small businesses is terrible. So we're constantly chasing that tail of trying to balance our business, working with the banks, and then adjusting for these fuel prices, because a lot of my customers are big corporations, and I have contracts with them. I can't raise prices. I can't pass that through on a yearly contract. Therefore, we eat it, and we can't continue to do that. We just, margins aren't there.
Mr. Kerr, because of your unique client base,
the orders, right? Yeah, for us, the additional costs that we had, what ended up meaning for us is, although we grew 80 employees over this 5-year period, there's another 5 to 10 more people that we could have hired, that could have had health insurance, would have purchased more vehicles down the road. It's forced us to hold back on some of those investments.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, what could have been even greater employee growth was stymied.
Mr. Zuber, Mr. Smith, again, you're not a big old sophisticated corporation. That's a good thing. They can hedge and do different things. What sort of tools do you all have to try to combat and leverage against this?
The only options I have is I'm a one-truck operation, leased to a carrier, and all I can do is work on the truck myself. Instead of having it worked on, I try to cut costs like that. I work on my truck
and if you
to turn it more fuel efficient.
If you have to work on that truck yourself, what does that take you away from?
It takes me away from my family life. And, my wife gives up, my kids give up. Health insurance is hard to come by that you can use. I mean, yeah, it's a very hard, especially the family life and the extra added work that I put into it, and then the compensation is not there.
Mr. Smith?
Lower margins, reduce labor, don't pay raises.
Yeah. It has to give somewhere. We mentioned how fuel prices have increased roughly 93% since President Obama got elected. They've begun to come down a bit. Are we still on the high end?
Yes.
Don't you love it when
We
I
are.
ask easy questions?
Is that rhetorical?
Well, that was whatever you want to call it. We're still up there, aren't we?
Yes, we are. Very high. I think we need to depend more on domestic drilling. I think we need to cut some regulatory red tape to try to get more domestic drilling, and not only rely on oil and diesel, but maybe in the small the in-town communities, like the landscapers that deliver, don't force it on them. I don't want any mandates. But use maybe natural compressed gas. They're getting a lot of those around the area, but they're starting to put them in. They're not able to be used over the road very well for a lot of drivers.
Yeah.
But, you know, and cut it that way and cut the regulatory red tape to build refineries, invest some of our money off of the domestic oil that we capture to invest in alternate fuels and try to get the price down and become self-reliant again in this country.
You'll never work in Washington, you're making much too much sense. Gentlemen, 360, 370, 380 a gallon. This is still hugely difficult for your companies, your businesses.
It's not only difficult just from the fuel, but you gotta understand, anytime that there's this fluctuation with a barrel of oil, it affects our production costs because we use oils in our manufacturing process.
Yeah.
And that is the other part of the equation that affects small businesses like mine, that, you know, we use oils and lubricants and cleaning solutions and that type of thing. You know, barrel gets to $100 a gallon or a barrel. We see significant increases, 50% sometimes, in just oils that we use in production, lubricants.
Mr. Smith, historically for you, this is high end right now. This is on the high end.
Yeah, we're currently, I think this week, fuel surcharge for one of the companies that we deal with a lot is 15%. So that's still, that's $150 on a $1,000 load. That money comes out of somebody's pocket, and generally speaking, it can't come out of our customers' pockets because they don't have any more money to pull out of their pockets.
Maybe I didn't hear you right. Did you testify that this is the first time ever you've had to put a fuel surcharge on your deliveries?
This is the first time that we have done it as a company for our own local deliveries that we do with our trucks.
Okay. Mr. Zuber, answer me one question about the trucking industry in general. Has it become more consolidated? Is it tough for the 1, 2, 3, 4 truck shops to make a go of it? What's happening to the smaller companies in the trucking industry?
Well, it's very tough for even 100 truck operations. The problem is the fuel surcharge is not able to be passed on, you know, and the operators eat it. And the problem is we're giving tax breaks, grants to the bigger companies. They have the legal departments to swoop in and grab those grants that we know nothing about.
What's, educate me, a 100 truck operation, is that considered small, medium?
That's small.
That's small, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
But, you know, we just do not have if we pass it on, we pass it on to everybody in this room. We have to pass it on to the consumers. They can't afford it, we can't afford it. But with the breaks that they're getting, see, they're not only getting breaks with grants and stuff like that. I pay a certain price for a gallon of diesel, whatever's on the sign out there. They may get 20 to 30 cents off of that as a big corporation. Tires are the same way, so on. So everything they use, they get such big breaks, it's hard for us to compete as owner-operators. So,
And we hear that across industry.
can I say one more thing?
Oh, you've got the mic.
It is funny, I started in the early 80s as a truck driver. I actually took home more money. But back then, you could buy diesel for 89 cents a gallon. Today it's $3.90. I made 95 cents to $1 a mile back then. I make an average of $1.02 a mile plus fuel.
Wow.
It doesn't come out. It's hard to raise 3 kids and wife and be happy.
Wow, wow. Mr. Kerr, again, you're unique at this table because of what you do and who you're working with. 70-some%, as you said, is Medicare and Medicaid. Is it true that home health care and ambulances are the last health professions still making house calls?
Largely, that's true. I mean, there are still small physician groups that do that, but they're the exception rather than the rule.
And home health care has experienced Medicaid reimbursement cuts?
Medicaid and Medicare.
Medicare.
Medicare has been significant, and this competitive bidding that I spoke about, just to take a minute or so on that subject. Right now, there's approximately 35 million people in the United States that have Medicare. With the Obamacare plan is going to take that number to about 70 million people on those government rolls. The costs associated with this program of competitive bidding, where they, in the first 9 cities, eliminated 87% of the competition. And by the way, that 87% that was eliminated were small businesses.
Right.
You take that going forward, and it seems counterintuitive. You're going to take double the demand and you reduce the supply by 87%. So your area that you live in, McHenry, we service that area from our place. So in metropolitan Chicago, there's about 100 companies that do what my company does. Take that down to 13, and it exacerbates the fuel situation. We now have to drive, we've broadened the geographic density, now having to drive farther to provide those services. So the amount of fuel that we're going to consume becomes grossly inefficient.
Now, healthcare and Obamacare will probably be a fairly interesting topic this week. But with these Medicare cuts and with these rising fuel costs, what is, in your mind, what's this going to do to people's access to healthcare, especially home healthcare?
Well, certainly a lot of the extra services that personal service companies provide are going to be diminished, like one of the examples I talked about. We're just going to have to eliminate any possibility of being customer or senior citizen friendly. If the option is to go out of business or stay in business and reduce some of those services, that's, you know, another rhetorical question, I suppose.
Oh, we're full of them. Right. Isn't it fascinating, everyone, this pattern here of big versus small? You can almost go down every industry, and big businesses and big corporations generally have capital, generally are sitting on capital, generally government tends to create rules to take care of them, and it's the smaller businesses that take the hit. One couple general questions for everybody, then we'll call it a morning. Actually, Mr. S&S Hinge, I want to ask you one quick specific. Do you compete against foreign imports?
Yes.
Okay. What are fuel prices? How are they helping you in this competitive environment? Or hurting you? Try to just take 30 seconds.
Yeah. One of the issues is that, as you well know, you've been in my plant, and we've, over the years, tried to what we call China-proof ourselves with technology and innovation. However, the big box guys do buy quite a bit of hardware from Asia, and the good news there is that some of this is coming back to the States. And when it comes to manufacturing, because of the higher transportation costs and fuel costs, I can't go and sell my product in China anymore just for the fact of shipping it there outweighs the cost of the manufacturing costs. So, you know, exporting has become more difficult.
Yeah.
But again, on the flip side, we're seeing more activity come back. So there is a...
Two quick general questions, and then we'll wrap. You know, the price of gas at the pump has moderated a bit the last couple of months. Demand for gas is down. I mean, Americans are hurting. So on the demand side, there's not as much demand. We're not driving around as much. The economy is struggling out there. Folks are struggling. Give me your quick take right now on where you see things in this country economically. Let's start here and go down the row quickly. Yeah, where are we at right now?
We're at a point where jobs are being lost. If there's no consumers to buy my product, or not my products, but the products I haul, that means less loads for my truck to haul. That means more trucks trying to haul the same load. The prices are going down, the fuel's still up. You know, there's only so many can live on that top tier. whenever you got the bottom tier working and support